Hey, everybody, we are live. Me and Dr. Bill Carroll here, NFL draft expert for Zennie62 Media. Welcome, Bill. Wearing red tie and blue Chicago Bears blue shirt.
Well, it's black, but yeah,
It's
but I can see how you could. It's the lighting, I guess, but yeah, it's black.
I can't tell my blues from my blacks anymore. And so we have already done the coin flip part thing of the thingy, and I won the toss. And so we are going to go the first round, Chicago Bears. Now, I'm not going to waste anybody's time here. This one is Marvin Harrison Jr. And the reason why I say that is because he's a generational talent, and I can't imagine the Chicago Bears letting him get away. I can't. It just seems like if Caleb Williams is even has a bit of a question mark, Marvin Harrison Jr. has no question mark. Okay, zero. You know, um, and I can't wait to see him catching passes from Justin Fields with the Chicago Bears. So Marvin Harrison Jr., Chicago Bears. There.
Yep. So
And,
the Ohio State University will be very happy.
yep.
They
Oh
will
yeah.
be
As
putting,
well as many thousand Chicago Bears, well, millions of Chicago Bears fans and many thousands of Chicago Bears season ticket holders. Uh, it will be a fantastic NFL draft for them.
yeah.
Now
No,
we
it's a very divided town. I can tell you that.
hey,
Half of them are desperate for another quarterback, and then half of them, about roughly half, are still strongly believe in Justin Fields and hope they build around it. So half will be very happy, and half will be very upset.
so now we come to Bill, and Bill, it's your turn
Well,
to go
yeah,
here. Commanders.
yeah. So the Commanders, I don't think this will take very long at all, are going to just make their way straight up to the podium, and they're going to select Drake May. Now, there'll be some people who will be nervous or scared or whatever because of obviously they have Sam Howell on the roster. I think that actually works in their favor. These are two young men who actually have a very strong working relationship and a strong personal relationship. Drake May learned a lot from Sam when they were together, and
Wait,
still, like,
Drake May over Caleb Williams?
oh, that's right. I keep forgetting you didn't take Caleb Williams. Scratch that. Yeah, they'll take Caleb Williams. I keep forgetting you didn't take Caleb Williams. Yeah, they'll take Caleb Williams then. Yes, right. I forgot he was still on the board. Yeah, it'd be obviously Caleb, and they'll be thrilled. Talk about being thrilled. They were very much afraid they would not have this opportunity. They get to bring him back to the Washington, D.C. area, and he doesn't have to play right away. I think Sam Howell is a good enough option that they can let Caleb work his way in, maybe after the bye week or things like that. Depends how the season starts also. Obviously, if Sam gets off to a very poor start, there'll be a lot of pressure to get Caleb out there. But if Sam can at least keep the boat afloat, I think they'll give him time for Caleb to settle in first.
And now we come to the Patriots and me down there, and I am not going to waste any time here because I believe that the quarterback that the England Patriots want to take is Jaden Daniels, and that's what I'm going with. Jaden Daniels, Patriots.
That's another guy where the big questions are not talent. There are questions obviously about his actual frame. He's very, very thin, but he's managed to play at a high level despite the fact that he has a very slender frame. I saw him literally from his first start at Arizona State, and he was one of the real coup that they were able to keep him there when the coaching change was made and Graham was shown the door and they brought in Herman. The fact they were able to at least initially retain Jaden Daniels, he later, of course, finished up his career at LSU. And what I like about him most is he got better continuously year after year after year.
Now, something else though. You talked about how thin he was, but you know what? You got to catch him first. This is not a small guy.
Thin, but not small. Sure, he's long and lean.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay. So now we come to the fourth pick in all of this, the Arizona Cardinals, and that falls to me, a wide receiver. And
Well, I don't think it does because didn't you just pick Jaden Daniels?
oh, hell yeah! What am I talking about? I'm sorry, Bill.
That's okay. I just think you got confused somehow, or excited, or maybe both.
Um, how about greedy? How about greedy, Bill? How about greedy?
Maybe that's the term.
Yeah, greedy.
And once again, I don't think there'll be much time wasted. Roma Dunze is going to be dropped right into an already explosive offense, and he gives them what they don't have in any of the other receivers they have on the roster. That player who wins, they aren't 50-50 balls. With him on the field, they are 75-25. Or, he's
You're telling me wait, you're telling me he's a solid number 4. Because remember before,
yep.
Malik went into this area.
And I still think Malik could, but Malik is more like players they already have on the roster. I could see Malik Neighbors going there as well. I just think that Roma Dunze is a different kind of player than the receivers they already have. They don't have that win the war guy in terms of jump up, with 3 guys around you and come down with the ball.
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors is a terrific player, but he's more like Jamar Chase, not just because they're roughly the same size and from the same school, but he plays more like that in that not to say he can't win 50-50 balls too. I mean, he does, but it's not the best part of his game. He's better after the. Well, actually, Roma Dunze is pretty good after the catch too, but he's a. Actually, there's not much that Roma Dunze can't do. Think about it, but Malik Neighbors is a terrific player, and he's not going to be on the board much longer. To me, you can't go wrong with either one. I think both Roma Dunze and Malik Neighbors. I'm basically just switching it up a little bit, but I think that
Roma is bigger than Malik.
Oh yeah. Well, he's one of the few receivers in this class who really meets for teams that are looking for that height, weight, speed, especially at the X. Right? Some teams want 6'2" and up. There's a lot of really good receivers in this class, but most of them don't have the height, weight, speed profile of Roma Dunze. Some of them are faster, some of them are bigger, but there's not too many that have the combination of size and speed and good route running and great hands. He's a technician. Like, he can check pretty much all the boxes. To me, Neighbors is more dynamic. That's the one place where Neighbors has the advantage, is this pure dynamic stop, change, start, and change of direction. Roma Dunze has every other thing.
Okay, so now it falls to me and the Los Angeles Chargers. And the Chargers will not hesitate to bring Brock Bowers in. Chargers. That is a no-brainer. The most effective tight end.
It addresses the need also.
Yeah, one of the most effective tight ends in Georgia history, if not the most effective.
Well, the most effective in Georgia history, most certainly.
Well, I mean, what did I say? I thought was thinking.
You said Georgia history, and I would agree with you. Most definitely the best. No offense to Ben Watson, who people forget what an utter freak show Ben Watson was. Ben Watson ran 4.44 at well over 250 pounds. He had a max bench of 555 pounds. He could squat almost 600 pounds. He could power clean almost 400 pounds. And
he had a temper the size of Godzilla.
Well, Ben Watson's actually a very nice man. Now, can you get under his skin if you say the wrong thing? Sure. He's going to protect. He's going to protect like his wife and things like that. But I think most men would. But he's a very thoughtful, kind, and very deep think. If you read his book, you know what a deep thinking man he is. Ben Watson's a terrific human being. And was an amazing football player.
What was the book called?
What is Ben Watson's book called again?
Well, while you're thinking about that, I'll advance the board. Let's see the draft order, and next is actually on the clock anyway. New York Giants.
One of them was called Under Our Skin. The other one was, let's see. He's written a couple, I think. Yeah. Under Our Skin, Getting Real About Race.
Hmm.
And he also has one about the new Dad's Playbook, which is a little lighter fare. But yeah, he's written a few books.
I think I'd like to read the new Dad's Playbook. That would be interesting. Okay, so the Giants, the G-men, are in your capable hands. At least I hope.
Well, now, Drake May goes off the board, and this works out perfectly for the Giants. They have once again have a good enough stopgap in their current quarterback. They don't have to rush, and this is actually a really good situation for Drake May as well. Dayball is one of the few guys that
he's not a need pick.
Yeah, he is. They're going to move on from their current quarterback. So, but he's a good enough stopgap that it buys them some time to develop Drake May. And they actually are one of the few teams that has someone running their team that has been successful in developing young quarterbacks in Brian Daboll. So it's actually an ideal situation. It really is an ideal situation for Drake May.
So you're going to get Drake May over Joe Alt or Malik Neighbors? I mean, that's like, that doesn't make any sense. This is the first time I ever saw you go all in for a guy that's a giant question mark to a lot of people.
Well, all the quarterbacks have question marks.
Like
there's no Joe Burrow. There's no Patrick. There's none of those guys where you say I am 100% sure. None of those guys are in this class where there's no tape that scares you. Every single one of these guys has at least one or two games that terrifies you. So,
yeah, but not none of them.
But you don't have to. The good news is you don't have to rush him. Right? Yeah. They still have their current quarterback under contract. They know he's not the long-term answer, but they've already paid it. Right? They can't get out from under it.
Giants fans do not like you right now.
They don't have to like me. They'll like me later when Drake May ends up taking them to the playoffs.
No, you'll get fired by then. That'll be a long wait.
it won't be as long as you think. I'd say probably.
I have zero faith in this.
I would say probably by 2027.
I have zero faith in this guy. I mean, goose egg, none, absolutely none.
I've done probably slightly more work on him than you have, but
doesn't matter. You can you can do a lot of work and still the work is based on a bad judgment. I'm just okay. So I'm just saying I don't all right. And I'm not being, I don't mean being insulting. I'm being honest.
I am as well. I'm not sold on any of these guys, but
this guy.
If you're going to roll the dice, this is the guy to roll the dice on.
I wouldn't. He's got way too much hype behind him to suit me.
I don't care about hype. I care about tape.
Well, what? Okay, let's talk about tape. Okay, let's do that.
Sure. He's got 3 games that scare me. He's also got 8 games that give me a lot of hope. I've watched every single one. I've watched every single one of his starts, Zennie.
He's got 7 games that's me. And my point is that I don't have to watch every one of his games to know what kind of system he plays and know why a receiver gets open against a certain coverage. And I know doggone well that he can't figure out Rip Liz. And he's going to get stung with it in the pros. And if he doesn't figure it out now, he never will.
Guess what? People said the exact same thing about Josh Allen coming out, too. They said the exact same thing about him.
This guy's not Josh Allen.
I'm not saying he's Josh Allen, but he's farther along in some ways than Josh Allen was.
But
Josh Allen's bigger, obviously. Strong. What?
Bill, he threw 2 interceptions his final game against Rip Liz coverage.
I know that, Zennie. I watched the same games you watched and more. More.
My point, I don't need to watch every game he played. Okay? My point is, I've gotten to a point at this stage in my life where I only need to see a few games of the system you play in. I don't have to go here and go there. It's math. And the math tells me he's going to be a classic bust. He is.
We'll see which one of us is right. I think he's a developmental guy who will take time to get where he's going.
If that's the case, Michael Penix is a developmental guy.
Well, no, Penix is a different case because he's not as raw, but he's also not as talented. There's not as much to work with, but he's closer to talented.
He's more talented.
Well, that's where you and I will have to simply part ways. And I'm a big fan of Michael Penix, but his ceiling is nowhere near as high as Drake May's. He has a higher floor.
Drake has no ceiling. He'll come in, he'll get sacked, he'll get injured. He'll be damaged goods within a few months. That'll be it.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Trust me. No, because there's too many people
Well,
really.
I can also say trust me, but it doesn't matter whether we trust each other or not.
There are
Let's
too
just
many
see what
people
happens.
that anoint this guy, and it makes me nervous. It's like,
I'm
why?
not anointing anybody. I don't, like I said, I'm not sold on any of these quarterbacks.
You him?
They're all. No, I'm not. I'm not sold on any of them. I already said that.
Then
They
let him
all.
drop once. Do a draft where you let him drop. Let him drop.
Sure, we can do a bunch of different drafts. That's the advantage of doing a bunch of different drafts to see what different scenarios play out. That's why we do this. That's the point of the exercise.
Because the Giants would never do this. I'm gonna call what's his name? I'm gonna call um uh his brother. I'm gonna call Steve Tisch and ask him what he thinks because I need to buttonhole him about something anyway. That'd be. What do you think about this dude, man? What the heck are you talking about? All right. Anyway, onward through the fog. That's why folks. That's why they play the game. And Tennessee Titans 6-11. All right. Now,
Well, Joe Alt would probably be a good spot for him here, but yeah, go ahead.
I think I'm gonna do something a little different here, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the reason I believe is because I am not. I am really sold on what I saw, and I'm willing to take this guy where I'm taking him because of what he did, and I really believe that you don't let a guy like that as a difference maker, an obvious difference maker, leave the building not in your stead. And since they need a wide receiver anyway, Xavier Worthy, Titans.
Over Malik Neighbors. Really interesting.
Yeah, because you know why? Speed kills. Okay.
Malik Neighbors is hardly slow, but I guess I'd take your
Compared to this guy, everybody's slow. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I guess that's one way of putting it. He's extremely fast. Yes,
I want extremely fast. That's dollars. Cha-ching, dollar bills, y'all. Dollar bills. Put him in a bubble screen. Put him in motion from the backfield. Do all kinds of crazy things with him. Man, I'll go nuts with this dude. Oh my lord. Go nuts with him. So now we come to welcome everybody. Hey everybody on a Friday night. We have 10 people watching. Welcome to Zennie62 YouTube. Our usual Friday night fight. Just kidding. All right. So we come to the 8th pick and the Falcons and Bill Carroll.
Well, now Malik Neighbors goes off the board. Now Malik Neighbors goes off the board. So
okay. You should have just Greg May here. I could have bought this one.
This is the thing that really is exciting about getting a guy like Neighbors. They have their Roma Dunze, right? They have their big body 50-50 ball guy, right? They have that in Drake London. They have their tight end position taken care of already, right? They have their running back position taken care of. Now, I think they're going to, this is just me talking, I think they're going to address the quarterback position via one of the free agents. If Baker Mayfield hits free agency, don't be shocked if he gets a call. Obviously, people don't talk about Kirk Cousins. That's one of the possible landing spots for Kirk Cousins. Russell Wilson, who knows, maybe. But I think they're going to address that in free agency, and then they're going to draft, I think, later a young developmental quarterback to bring along slowly. But they're going to address the position short term, I think, by one of the veteran free agents.
The Falcons are going to run you out of town for doing this. You know that, don't you?
They can do whatever they want.
Because they're going to say quarterback. And they're going to say, wait a minute.
And we're getting a quarterback. That's what free agency is about to do for us. We're getting one of those 3 veteran free agents.
Then get Jameis Winston.
Sure. That's another possibility.
Okay. Now we've got fun stuff here, folks. Moving along. We are coming to the 9th pick. The Chicago Bears, and it falls to me. And the Bears have their wide receiver. There's some people believe that Bears need a quarterback. I am not one of those people that thinks that. I am going to give them Joe Alt here. This is where Mr. Alt goes.
This would be a great pick for the Bears, actually.
Yeah, Joe Alt.
They desperately need an elite level tackle. They have struggled mightily at the position for the last several years.
Chicago Bears. So the Bears get an elite wide receiver and an elite offensive tackle in one draft. And hey, they're not even out of the first round yet. Not bad. Not bad. So now we've got pick 10, the New York JTES Jets. And that calls to Dr. Bill. Carroll, thank you.
Well, the run on elite left tackles continues as Olufanu from Pashanu from Penn State finds his new home. And it's funny, the player I thought most of, though he's not quite as undersized, but similar movement skills, the player I most thought of when I watched him actually was DeBrickashaw Ferguson. DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
Oh,
DeBrick was a former. I think we met at the draft where DeBrickashaw got drafted by the Jets.
We did, yeah.
So
that was Bill Chaka's favorite.
Yes, yeah. Well, and DeBrickashaw, named, of course, for a character in the Thornbirds, I believe, was the name of the TV soap opera he was. But he was a guy that had to put on almost 40 pounds between the end of the season and the beginning of his first season as a pro. And he did it, right? He ended the season at UVA at about 266 pounds and put on something like 43 pounds, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But it didn't affect his movement skills. Now, Fashanu doesn't have to do all that. He's a big enough kid already. But you see the movement skills, you see the power. His technique could use the work. He needs to, do a better job keeping people off his chest, off his breastplate. But all the pieces are there. It's just cleaning up technique.
Now, didn't they get Penei Sewell? The Jets?
I mean, the Lions still have Penei Sewell.
I'm sorry.
Unless there was a blockbuster trade I missed.
No, I don't know why I thought the Jets got him. I think maybe at the time it just seemed like a good idea, but you're right, it was the Lions that got him.
So people were projecting him to the Bengals, and the Bengals, of course, took instead a wide receiver. They took Jamar Chase. That's what made Sewell available to the Lions.
So now we're at the Vikings. They say the biggest needs are quarterback, edge, offensive guard, linebacker, defensive tackle. Having seen them, I think that free agency is where they get their quarterback. I'm not going to send them a rookie. Instead, what I'm going to do is send them I had that nailed down. Yeah, there he is. Byron Murphy out of Texas. Byron Murphy the second goes here.
Joseph upfield penetrator. Yep. Okay. Classic 3-tech.
Yep.
I guess they haven't had a guy who's quite that. Well, they've had some decent interior guys since then. But I mean, John Randall, of course, was Hall of Famer. He may not be quite that. You don't see that very often. But
John and then Keith Millard, I think.
Well, Millard
was more in though. But
yeah, he played more on that 4-5 out there. But
yeah,
they've had some decent guys, but they haven't had that person who draws the kind of attention that I think Byron Murphy has a chance to. So yeah, he could potentially a special player.
Yeah, and what's nice is if you decide to use an odd front defense, ooh, look out, and then put him in a stack overset. Ooh, look out. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now, we come to 12. The Denver Broncos. Biggest needs quarterback, defensive tackle, tight end, cornerback, and edge.
Yep.
That comes to me. And so I'm not going to send.
Wait a second. Hold on. Wait. How does this work again, Zennie? Is it you get 2 picks and I get 1? Is that how it works?
Well, actually, I get 3 and you get 1. Sorry.
Fascinating how this works.
Sometimes I get 4 and you get 1.
Sometimes. Well, what's the old saying? If you aren't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah.
I think this is the landing spot for J.J. McCarthy. I think that Sean Payton in his well, not I won't say infinite wisdom because I don't think his wisdom is at all infinite, but he has a lot of hubris also. And I think he looks at this young man, and of course he knows, both of the Harbaugh brothers quite well. They've known each other for decades. I'm sure he's had lots of long conversations with the Harbaughs, with people who have known JJ McCarthy for many years, and feels like Jared Stidham, and people like that can sort of hold the fort for a while. But I think this is the person he wants to mold. He hasn't had a chance to mold a young quarterback in a long time.
I have to say though, after I saw his combine performance, I think bust. Ta-da. We'll
Based
see.
off a combine performance. Well, okay.
Performance going.
I mean, I don't pay that much attention to that stuff. I just go back to what they did on tape.
Well, I've never been high on this guy because he plays with a stacked Michigan Wolverines team, very well coached, that basically crushed a lot of people. And so, I mean, within that, he wasn't like he did well enough. Was he extraordinary? No. And that's the thing. I'm not going to take him there for that reason.
Sure. So I'm going to reference, the players that reminds me most of, both of whom, one of whom we've seen how his career's played out. One of them still too early. But you look at the careers of, guys like Trey Lance. You look at the careers of guys like, going back to North Dakota State. You look at the careers that you've seen guys have in those run-heavy offenses where they just dominate. And so when you look at guys like Wentz and guys like Lance, there's a big adjustment to be made. Now, the good news for a guy like McCarthy is he's a very bright guy. He was asked mentally to do a fair amount, even though they didn't ask him to do a lot in terms of win the football game, right? Because they had such a great offensive line. They had good, if not great, wide receivers and a terrific run game. A couple of decent tight ends also mixed in for flavor. So that's why you take it slow. Like you took it slow with a lot of those Alabama quarterbacks and things like that, because until recently, Alabama quarterbacks didn't have that much of a load placed on them because they had such a great offensive line, such a great running game. Now they've, opened it up, spread it out, and they aren't quite as dominant, thanks to Georgia and some other things like that. But the thing about a guy like JJ McCarthy is some people want the guy who has no habits, right? No good habits, no bad habits. He has a few bad habits. He said he throws the ball off the back foot more than he has to, especially with guys with an elite offensive line.
Off the back foot, getting off the bus. That kid makes me nervous. He did it in the hallway, whereas if I were at the combine, I would say, you know what? Don't do that. Don't do that. He did it during his drills, and then he's got this long windup that people think is a great throw. But I did that in high school, and Tony Fardello, my coach, was yelling at me like, Abraham, you ever know how to throw rocks? You don't throw rocks like that. So, no, I'm not sold. But anyway,
I'm not sold on any of the quarterbacks, as I said before. But people are going to take them early. Why? Because people take quarterbacks too early. It's just what happens. But there's things to work with, right? He has enough raw ability that someone who believes in himself the way that a guy like Sean Payton does will believe that he can turn him into an elite level quarterback. And I think Sean Payton is exactly the kind of guy that believes that about himself.
I think Sean Payton lets him fall. Meanwhile, the Raiders are very ecstatic that you took J.J. McCarthy because this is one guy they're not letting get out of their sights. Michael Penix Jr.
That would not be a bad spot for him.
Outstanding. Paired with the kind of hybrid air raid attack I have a feeling they're going to install, he is going to be literally on the dot. And I say that pun intended because he throws on the dot. He's going to make the Raiders fun to watch. He may wind up starting. That would not be, that would not be out of the picture. Michael Penix Jr., welcome to Las Vegas.
Yeah, well, of all the quarterbacks we've talked about, he's the one who's, in my mind, the best suited to be a day one starter. The other guys I all think will need to sit.
Yeah. So pick number 14, Saints, that comes to you.
Yep. So for the Saints, a lot of the players they hoped would still be there are not. But they need to rebuild their once proud defense. not that long ago, the defense was actually the pride of the team, right? They bragged on what kind of defense they had, and then Dennis Allen, whose bread and butter was supposed to be defense, ended up, uh, I think the term you call is backsliding, and I think they want to add a player who will start to rebuild that defense from the middle outward, and I think they take Jerzon Newton from Illinois, who is that other truly special, explosive interior defender who can demand and still defeat double teams. How do I know this? He did it on tape. uh, Teams like Minnesota, teams like Wisconsin sent their two best interior offensive linemen at him constantly, and he still got business done.
And here he is, folks. Coming down the pipe and headed to the Saints. That's a great pick. That's a man who will help out Cam Jordan, among other things.
Yeah, and everyone else.
Now we come to the Colts at 15. And the Colts are looking at this and saying, something is occurring to us. And what occurs to us is that this extremely talented player is just sitting there because everybody's been so, quarterback happy and all that stuff. So meanwhile, Terrion Arnold from Alabama, the real home worker, real tackler, is sitting there waiting to say, Colts, come and get me. And we heard the call.
Yeah, the thing I like most about him is that he can play on the inside. You can kick him in to cover the slot, and he also can play boundary or field corner. So you can play him at essentially three different spots, either of the two corner spots or inside in the slot.
Now, see, in reality, he's going to the Giants. Okay? The Giants are going to get this guy. They won't take a trade. They won't take Drake May. They'll get this guy in that spot. All right. So, moving along, we've got the pick. Seattle Seahawks, number 16, and that is you, Mr. Carroll.
The run on elite corners has begun as one Mr. Quinyon Mitchell, who, frankly, is the most impressive cover corner I've seen in this entire draft class. His ability to mirror and match, his ability to stay in phase, to flip his hips, his ankle flexibility, his hip flexibility, his recovery speed, and ball skills are all check at elite or near elite levels. And he has a chance to be, people compare him to Marshawn Lattimore. People compare him to a lot of really, Darius Slay is another comparison I've heard. I don't think he's like those guys because both those guys are a little thicker bodied, a little stronger, but he's a little more flexible and a little quicker than either of those two. But I do think he's going to have that kind of career where he goes to, 4 or 5 Pro Bowls and makes All Pro a couple of times.
And next it comes to moi. Number 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars, which they have a lot more needs than edge, guard, defensive tackle, wide receiver, and offensive tackle. So I'm going to go best available. And so because of that, I am going to take a look at this and say, I'm going to get my favorite linebacker, Dallas Turner. I think Dallas Turner is an exciting defensive player who reminds me a lot of Devin White. Really does. Really does. And
he reminds me more of Josh Allen, the Josh Allen that actually they have in Jacksonville.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah. But I say that Devin White's speed and the way he plays and tackles in space. This is a scary dude, man. He is a scary dude. Um,
He's a good football player, and he can be used a couple of different ways. So he gives you some flexibility.
so we've got 18, the Bengals, with needs a wide receiver, offensive tackle, defensive tackle, tight end, and cornerback.
Yeah,
Mr. Carroll.
they have a few different needs, uh,
Yep.
and I think they address offensive tackle. I think that they look at Talisa Waga and they say, "Okay, you got mad at us when we didn't address the tackle position in the draft a couple of years ago,
Dang
and
it.
Joe Burrow got
Yeah.
knocked around pretty good. Okay, we hear you, we understand. We're going to take care of it. We're
Dang
going to
it.
protect Joe. We're going to take care of the franchise." When you have a quarterback who is capable of playing at the level that Joe Burrow is, you don't want him to end up like, Andrew Luck, having to retire in his early 30s. You want to make sure that this guy is able to play, into his late 30s or early 40s, perhaps even, as guys are starting to do now. And for that to happen, you have to stop people from hitting him.
Florida Bengals. Man, that's a good pick.
Yeah,
I can go either way here. I'm glad I got Turner though.
Yeah, but the tackles were starting to thin out a little bit, so
Yeah.
it's time to do something before, like I said, you can't damage the merchandise.
For the cupboard is bare. Yeah. All right. So we have the Rams at 19. Biggest needs cornerback, edge, linebacker, safety, and kicker. That's a kick.
Might be a little early to address kicker.
I agree with you. And so look at the Bill Carroll big board there and find out who is available. I believe, let me see, first of all, considering it from the perspective of best available, you know what? Latu, UCLA. That
of
is
all the pass rushers in this class, he's the one that has the deepest, most developed set of pass rush moves. He's got the long arm stab. He's got club and rip. He's got a spin. He's got a swim. He's got that little ghost move, right? That I don't know if Von Miller invented it.
He has he's got this habit of popping up whenever I pick, and it's the Rams' turn. I have a feeling this is really going to happen.
Well, if he's there, they'll have to consider it. The Rams could use a lot of things, as was pointed out, but elite level pass rushers are hard to find. And as I mentioned, Latu was in a similar situation as your friend Mr. Michael Penix, in that the biggest battle for them wasn't when you ever got to see televised. It was what happened when they went to the medicals. And if his medicals came back clean or close to clean, this will be probably where he goes. And it sounds like nothing terribly scary was found in his medicals. So much like with Penix, that was his biggest win, was what came back from the medical report.
Now we come number 20, Pittsburgh Steelers, who needs a cornerback, offensive tackle, inside offensive lineman, safety, and linebacker. Mr. Carroll.
Well, I mean, this is Nate Wiggins' time. Come on home, Nate. It has been a long time since we've had. I mean, Joe Hayden, of course, came via trade and gave us good play. Not elite, but very good play. Patrick Peterson was obviously well past his prime. I don't know if it was just a name recognition thing or what. I loved Patrick Peterson, and were it 2016, I would have been thrilled to have him on the team. But time waits for no man, and particularly at the corner position. Unless you're Darrell Green, it's very difficult to play at a super high level at that position deep into your 30s. So we had to address the position. We just released Patrick Peterson.
Yep.
And even if we hadn't, it was clear that we were going to have to address that position. But it became crystal clear with his release.
Okay. So, order changes to the Dolphins with needs an inside offensive line, safety, wide receiver, defensive tackle, and defensive end, or tight end, excuse me. So, having said all that, looking at the Bill Carroll talent board there. I'm going to have some fun here. I'm going to find the page and go purely and simply. Get rid of that. TE. And 83 matches under TE. That doesn't work. So let's try this another way. Just scroll down. All right. I am looking for a particular. Ah. 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 Hmm. 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 Yeah, they need the help. You know what? I'm not going to let this guy get away. I don't care. As much as I am tempted to do the other, I am gonna get this guy. And I'm gonna keep him in the state of Florida. His name is Jared Verse.
Oh, that's a nice pickup. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a nice pickup right there.
Yeah.
I became a fan of his before he got to Florida State. I was talking about him to anybody who would listen back when he was at Albany. And what a talented defensive line Albany, right? Albany in the NEC conference had, because in addition to Jared Verse, who of course transferred, they had Anton Junkosh, who was now transferred to Arkansas, and then AJ Simon, who was to me a legitimate pro prospect, also was on that same team. So at one point they had three, I think, legitimate pro prospects on their defensive line. There are a lot of, FBS, a lot of Division I programs that can't say that, and Little Albany had three legit Division I / NFL prospects on that D line.
All right, Jared Verse. So next we come to the order in the court. 22. The Eagles. And Eagles need running back, wide receiver, cornerback, edge, and linebacker.
Yeah. Well,
Bill.
what they somehow didn't mention was interior offensive line. For those that hadn't heard, some things have happened to the interior offensive line. What's going to happen is that last year's left guard, Cam Jurgens, is going to move over to play center. So now someone has to take that position. And we are thrilled to see that Troy Fontenot is right there for us. He can play tackle or guard. And we love the versatility, but he's a people mover. He is so smooth. His movement skills are unusual. His feet are so smooth and so quick. And we love that, right? Look at all of our offensive linemen. What do they all have in common?
You're sending them the center from Oregon?
Well, no, the center is – we're moving – we drafted Cam Jurgens to play center. Now, he played guard because, of course, we have a probably future Hall of Fame center until very recently. So he's been waiting his turn to take over the center position. Cam Jurgens is going to kick over to center.
I see your point. Yeah, I see your point.
So we're filling that point. We're filling Jurgens' old left guard spot with Troy Fontenot.
Okay,
so,
makes sense.
Yeah, so Cam Jurgens held his own, but he was a little undersized, frankly, to play guard. He's better suited to play center. I think he's about 303 pounds, if memory serves me correctly. So
I thought you said Troy Fontenot, right?
I did.
Okay, making sure. All right.
Right, so he's going to be taking over for what used to be Cam Jurgens' spot when he kicks inside the center. And it's going to help our running game. It's going to help, obviously, our quarterback. And he can play tackle. If we have an injury or a need, we can end up kicking him back outside. I love his versatility.
All right, so that's what we did there. Now, Houston Texans, and a pick acquired from the Cleveland Browns, and that falls to me. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That falls to you because I took Jared Pierce.
Nope, that does fall to you because I just took Troy Fontenot.
Yeah, sorry about that. You're right. So, Houston Texans. Now, let me see here. I believe that, of course, I did this before and I'll do it again, even though, well, let me think about this. Tyler Guyton. out of Oklahoma. The Texans.
Very, 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 very loose-limbed kind of. Once again, grew up playing basketball, and it shows in his movement skills. He needs to get a little stronger, a little tougher. But boy, oh boy, does he have a lot to work with. A big kid who's just a natural mover. Like I said, his core strength and lower body strength are where he needs to continue to work. But once he learns to anchor, because bull rushing is really the best way to beat him right now, because getting around him with his length and movement skills is kind of a tough. But coming straight at him is where some business can still be done. Once he learns to anchor, once he gets a little more ability to just kind of hold when people come straight at him, yeah, he'll be the real deal then.
Tyler Guy. Okay, next. You remember the Texans have 2 picks for folks. So don't get upset with me for not picking a pick you think is sexy. Or should be sexy, rather.
Keeping your young quarterback alive is very sexy to me.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. But, what these people get upset about. Just every little thing. All right, so number 24, the Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys are very disappointed that Tyler Guyton is not available.
Sorry.
But
sorry.
They will find solace in J.C. Latham. As once again, everyone's heard, the great Tyron Smith is coming to the end of his, maybe not his NFL career, but certainly to the end of his time as an elite level tackle. And with the Cowboys needing, that's not a thing you can, hope to fill. You have to fill. If you don't have a good enough left tackle, every other part of your offense is completely compromised. It changes your passing game. You have to take some plays out of your playbook if you can't protect. So this opens the playbook back up by having someone who can develop into and I believe he has the ability to develop into an elite level left tackle. If not, you kick him over to the right side where I think he would definitely be extraordinary, and then you can either look in free agency for a left tackle or swap somebody from one side from left to right. But I think Latham will grow into the role.
So now we come to the Packers, and Packers are intrigued by all of this developments and look down, and they realize that, hey, you know what? Even though we really don't need him, we just might take Keon Coleman anyway.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, now they're super stacked at wide receiver.
Yeah. That's it. Packers.
Well, there'll be a fight for the football because there's only so many footballs to go around. But my gosh, are you loaded at that position?
Hey, man, size and speed kills. That dude is big and he's fast.
He's got good enough speed. People are going to stick on the 4.64 and things like that. Yep. And I would point out that his ability to maintain his top speed in football field conditions allows that to not concern you as much as it might otherwise. Plus, his game is more around positioning and walling people off and things like that. But what he gives you, and I've heard people sort of compare him to like Anquan Bolden, he's a little more dynamic even than Anquan. Anquan was a guy whose best thing he could do was, once he had the ball in his hands, he was a terrific runner, right? But as an actual route runner and things like that, he didn't create a lot of separation. Keon Coleman is a more developed, which makes sense. He's a wide receiver. Well, in the case of
see him, you know what though? I see him as almost he's 6'4". All right.
Well, he's 6'2" and 5/8, I think.
Well, it says 6'4".
Well, and I know that, but
it's
not what you measure that. But yeah.
I see him at 216. I see him as a sleek hybrid wide receiver tight end type. I can put into double tight end formations, play action, get him downfield real quick, make plays. I'd love to throw sideline pattern to him. Great yard after the catch guy. So this is the all-around. He is your tool. Literally, he is your offensive tool. You can get a lot out of him. He's going to be he reminds me in a way of, in terms of his capabilities, how the Dallas Cowboys used Jay Saudi at tight end back in the day.
Yeah.
So
So to be exact, he came in at 6'3" and a quarter and 213. Is what he actually came in at. But the thing I like mostly about him, one is that he is good at contested catches. Once again, a guy that is not bothered by contact, is a very good route runner, is able to, once he has the ball in his hands, become pretty good after the catch. And like I said, he's got really good hands. He has some of the best hands in the class.
yeah, so you have him at that, but see, when I look down here, they have him at 6'4".
That's not
Yes,
what he measured at.
yeah,
That's
height.
what
Yes, height.
that's what he's measured. That's his height. That's from his program in college. What he measured at was 6'3" and a quarter and 213. Like they weighed and measured him at the combine.
Let's see here. Height. Height. They got him stay stuck at 6'4" all over the place. Maybe they're just repeating
Not
the
at the
same.
combine. Look at what he measured in at the combine.
Yeah, right. I'm looking at um here. Okay, now Sports Illustrated has it 6'3", 213.
Yeah, because they updated him
Yeah,
based off
okay, right.
based off the
Yeah.
combine.
All right. So, nonetheless,
But he's a great football player, which
yeah,
is the real point.
I'm
Oh,
sticking.
the Ravens are so upset. They really had their hearts set on him.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. Now, the Bucks at pick 26. Hold on a second, Bill. I gotta mute for a second, Bill. Hold on.
No problem. Well, I'm going to make the pick while you're muted, and you can talk about it when you come back. We're so excited because we have a need, and the best player on the board matches that need. We love it when you don't have to reach. Jackson Powers Johnson is, I think, in terms of amongst the safest players in the draft, one of the top 5 safest players in the draft. Anything short of career-ending injury is the only thing I could think would keep this player from being very good. And great is not at all out of the question. This is somebody who's got the athletic pedigree, has the mindset, leadership, mental toughness, physical toughness, everything, right? Everything, all the things you want at a position that is, sort of a thankless one. Well, I mean, except on the team, you're very much thankful for what your center or guard. He can play guard or center, and once again, that flexibility makes him even more valuable. But I think he could be a all-pro at center and a Pro Bowler at least at guard. And
Jackson Powers Johnson.
That's a no-brainer. The interior of the offensive line is a place of need. Ryan Jensen was a terrific player, and we lost a couple of great players. Right, 2 years ago we had the Ali Marpet retire.
Yep.
So we've had in back-to-back off seasons 2 terrific interior offensive linemen retire. We have to restock.
Now this is also where I had Penix going. At some here. So Bucks at 26. Okay, now next, thank you, Bill. We come to excuse me, at number 27, the Cards again, and a pick acquired from the Houston Texans, and that falls to me. And I believe the unusual rise of Xavier Thomas has put the entire draft in a kind of a disarray, pushing people down that normally would have been taken higher. One of those people that I believe the Cardinals need, just saying, is Amarius Sims out of Georgia.
Mims, but yes, I agree.
Amarius Mims, yes.
Yeah, Amarius Mims is another young, sort of not completely formed, but again, that's some teams want that. They want a guy that maybe isn't fully developed yet, and then they develop him. What you like about him? Well, he's huge. For one thing, he's incredibly large human being. Still has explosive movement in his lower body. Another guy that's got to clean up some technique stuff, but he's he's one of the younger players available. So you feel like he can grow into the position. But you're talking about a guy that once again, has that potential to be maybe an almost Jonathan Ogden type player down the line.
And so now we come to the Bills, and I believe that this is Chop Robinson time.
You know, Zenny, we disagree on many, many things, but we do not disagree about Chop. We do not disagree about Chop Robinson. They are thrilled, thrilled. They were sure that Chop Robinson was going to get taken before here. They're knocking down people to get to the podium to make this pick.
Yeah.
They're hurdling people. They just can't wait. Chop Robinson gives them something they have not had in a young pass rusher in a while.
And see, had you not picked Drake May and J.J. McCarthy out of position, in my opinion, Robinson would have went a lot earlier.
Well, and I could say the same thing about Xavier Worthy.
Sure, sure.
Players, and that's why we do this, right? Because scenarios change.
Yeah.
Free agency is still ongoing. Things are going to happen, and trades may still be made. All kinds of things could happen. But the cool thing about this is these things sometimes do happen, things that we didn't anticipate. So Chop Robinson being there was something I would not have initially anticipated. But it is thrilling to a team like the Bills, who are still trying to beat the Chiefs. And one of the things that could potentially help you beat the Chiefs is someone who can sack the quarterback. Yes. Adding people who sack the quarterback to your team, well, one thing, you should always do that. You can never have too many good pass rushers, Eddie. I mean, I'll make room. I'll make room for another good pass rusher. Having
a great college defensive end is good for your health.
I'll carry one less of some other position
in
order to find myself another great pass rusher. So yes, that's an easy pick. And now it goes
pick 29 and almost at the end. Mm-hmm. Wow, pretty good. And it comes to me, I believe, right?
It does, 100% you.
Wait, I thought I took Chop Robinson.
I just took Chop Robinson. Nice try.
Oh. Dang it.
I had the Bills.
I thought I could fool you into thinking it was me who did that. There's a little voodoo there. You
would have gotten away if it weren't those meddling kids.
All right, so I am now curious to see how well this gentleman, Devondre Sweat, would do on the Lions. I think he's going to be
He does feel like a Lions pick.
Yeah.
He's a guy who might bite someone's kneecaps. He is an old school 0/1 technique. He can play that cock nose shade.
Mm-hmm.
And what impressed me when I saw him up close at the Senior Bowl is he had a little more quickness in his get off than I had seen on tape. I could see him up close. Like, normally, you're watching, you're not always getting the best angle. They're following the football. So you can't really always see. They don't always if they don't give you a parallel down the line shot all that often where you can actually see who's getting off the ball first.
Right.
Normally you're kind of looking over and at the offense, and the defense is kind of in your lower part of your vision. Getting a chance to see him up close in person at the Senior Bowl make me like him much more than I did. And I liked him, but I had like an early second on him. I now feel like he could easily go in the latter half of the first, and I would not feel like it's a reach. I don't want to go quite as far as Lodi Nada, right? I think that it's maybe a notch below Lodi Nada, but he's not that far off, right? His upside, his potential. Could he get to the Casey Hampton level? I think he could.
Now we come to the Ravens, pick 30.
The Ravens are quite sad at this point. But they're going to stick where they are, and they're going to make a pick. They didn't get the receiver they wanted, but they got the receiver they needed in Brian Thomas Jr. from Louisiana State University. So now all the LSU wide receivers have been selected. The difference between him and some of the other LSU receivers, well, he's not quite as dynamic, as Malik Neighbors, who is super, super dynamic. But he's more dynamic than you would think. And you mentioned the size thing. That's a good-sized dude, Brian Thomas. He is a good-sized individual. That's a size receiver who can run, right? So that's your big guy who can run. Well, I mean, I don't say Dunze can scoot too for a guy his size. But I like Brian Thomas a lot. I still think he's a number 2 more than a number 1, like he was in college. But guess what? Good number 2 receivers have nice careers in the NFL nowadays, Eddie.
And now we come to the final pick,
Yes.
the Chiefs, which falls to me.
It falls to you.
And they have looked at the Raiders take Michael Penix. They have looked at the Chargers getting Brock Bowers. And the Chiefs are saying, you know what? We would do well to think in terms of defense. And for that reason, there's a good reason to say that Denzel Burke out of Ohio State be the player for them. And Denzel Burke is KC Chiefs.
Well, the thing that makes that, I'm a little surprised they passed on Kool-Aid McKinstry, but the thing that makes me think that could possibly happen, L'Jarius Sneed, though they did franchise him, franchising him sort of with an eye towards being able to trade him probably. So because of the sort of cap situation that they're in, they have a decent chance like they may have to move on from him. It'll be interesting to see exactly how that plays out, because I want to see exactly what the market is, right? I mean, everyone loves a player who's as good as L'Jarius Sneed because he's terrific. But he's not going to be cheap. I know that they're trying to make it work, but if they can't, they probably are looking at trading him. So I'll be interested to see exactly how that ends up working.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about Mr. Burke when you look at him versus other people, first of all, same height as Cooper DeJean, but when you consider athleticism and also the offenses he played against, in my opinion, more experienced. So I really think this guy is going to make a huge difference for whoever gets him. And he number of people are talking about his mentality, his physicality, and his maturity. So this is the kind of pick the Chiefs will get. Now, would they have gone with Kool-Aid McKinstry? Yeah. I could see that too, but I really wanted to test myself by getting somebody else, to be honest. Yeah, I just wanted to see what it would look like,
I got you, yeah.
And, does McKinstry fall into, in this scenario, McKinstry falls in the second round. That happens.
It does happen.
With
one or two players that almost everyone believes are going to go in the first round, like every year, will go in the second. Braylon Trice is a guy that I have a first-round grade on. But he could easily, we just showed, he could easily make it to the early second.
That happened with, you say a number of players. I remember when that happened to the great wide receiver, DK Metcalf. He was devastated. Remember that?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it happens every year. And it'll happen to somebody again this year. Like there'll be one or two players that most people have slotted for the first that will make it to the second. There's only 32 spots in the first round. As I remind people every year, there's only 32 spots in the first round. Now, somebody you are convinced is going in the first one. It happens every year.
And do you really think there'll be this run on the quarterbacks that we saw?
Here's what I've learned. If it were up to me, no quarterback would go before somewhere in the middle of the first. Because none of the quarterbacks, in my mind, should go before the middle of the first. But however, now see, here's what you have to understand. I'm understanding how the NFL works. Now, I don't like any of the quarterbacks as much as the NFL does, right? The NFL's talking themselves to a lot of these quarterbacks. I talk to enough NFL people to know that they've talked themselves into these quarterbacks. But if it were up to me, I wouldn't touch any of them before.
When you say NFL people, you mean the actual GM that's going to make the decision?
I mean player personnel people. I mean college directors of college scouting. Yes, they've talked themselves. Several teams have talked themselves into these guys. Yes,
It's going to be interesting.
that's what you find out when you go to some of these things and you hang around. You go to the hotel bars and you have your ears open. You hear things. So yeah. Now I don't believe anything I hear at this point. Anything I hear at this point, I just chalk up to lying season. But the stuff I heard back like November, December, January, I still had reason to believe.
Okay. NFL Turkmenistan reports. Wow. Is this true? Or
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, so I can't comment.
Breaking. Drake May was arrested by Indianapolis police on suspicion of driving under the influence per public arrest records. The projected top 5 pick, this is March 3rd. The projected top 5 pick and the QB2 on most big boards could have a Dak Prescott-like fall on draft night. I'm saying, is this real? And he's saying, yep, it is real.
Well, let's find out.
He says, on God. He says, wow.
On God doesn't make it real.
No, I'm reading. He says, wow, sounds like that's wow, real. And someone else says, wow, real. Apparently, this is real.
Let's see what ESPN has to say. Okay,
That's
not that ESPN is everything, but I'm not seeing it come up on. No offense to Mr.
Yeah, because
no offense to Mr. Turkmenistan, but it's not coming up.
No, because they're up for him. They do that. That's the last place I would look for the truth.
Okay, but here's what I'm saying. Mr. Turkmenistan, no offense, is not an established source, is what I'm saying. Okay, let's try Sports Illustrated then.
No, because these people cover up. They did that. Dude, they did that with Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert got arrested the fall before the draft. There was one publication that reported it when they were all putting all this BS about Cam Newton and trying to make Blaine Gabbert sound like the greatest thing since sliced bread. Sure. Okay. Here, this guy got detained.
Pick one, Fox Sports. Pick one, Fox Sports. Okay, let's see what Fox Sports says.
Trust them.
But you're going to trust Turkmenistan. Okay, sure.
I'm saying that he's right. I'm looking around now.
Right, but I'm saying I'm not seeing any corroboration by anybody is the point.
And you won't from them. Okay. They don't do that.
Here's what I'm saying. If it's a breaking story, at some point, whether it be Schefter, whether it be, somebody else will corroborate it, right? At some point.
I don't trust them to do that with him. No.
Okay, Zennie. Well, once again,
he's the only guy that has this out there. So
that's the point I'm making. You see what I'm driving at? Like, if nobody picks it up, right? If nobody else picks it up, it's a super juicy story. If nobody else picks it up.
Well, hold on a second. Here's another one, but this is November 19th of 2023. UNC superstar quarterback Drake May has been arrested with aggravated assault charges. He was taken in earlier today by campus police. Will this drop Drake May? This was 19th of November 2023. Yeah. Okay. And hold on a second. Whoa. Wait a minute. Wow. Yeah, something. That's the only time that popped up there.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Let's see here.
Like the Daily Tar Heel would have picked that up. You see what I'm saying? If it had happened on campus.
No, I don't trust you. I don't know why I understand you would trust these publications
because if it happened on campus, the campus newspaper would have it. That's what I'm pointing out to you, Zennie.
It's bought to cover this stuff up like anybody else, man. Don't do that. You should know.
Journalism students trying to make a name for themselves, Zennie. It doesn't.
You're naive enough to believe that.
It doesn't help them in any way to cover up for Drake May.
You're not naive, man.
I'm not naive, but unlike you, I've written for our campus newspaper before.
Yeah. Look, I know people cover this stuff, but I don't care where they're at. I've seen it happen. Happened with Blaine Gabbert. How come the Missouri police, campus police papers didn't pick up that he was detained? They
That
didn't
didn't,
report
but that
that.
didn't happen. That didn't happen on campus.
It doesn't matter. He's a star.
Right, but here's what I'm
I'm
saying.
clear that.
The report you said it happened on campus.
I'm reading what happened here. Drake May arrested.
Uh-huh.
I'm only okay. I'm reading what happened, what they said happened, and it said that UNC superstar. I didn't say anything. Right here, yeah. This was November 19th, 2023,
Uh-huh.
and it says UNC superstar quarterback Drake May has been arrested with aggravated assault charges. He was taken in earlier today by campus police.
So it's on campus, did he? That's
Right,
what they said.
right. But my point,
but there's no sign of an arrest record.
right? There's no sign of arrest record. They cleaned that up.
And the Daily Tar Heel, which say what you want, unlike you, I'm familiar with the Daily Tar Heel. They are not in anybody's pocket. They're, if anything,
You want to bet?
They're in an adversarial.
You want to bet? You want to believe they're not in anybody's pocket? But how do you know? I know that they are.
Zennie, I have.
Why do you trust white institutions?
I'm not talking about the institution. I'm talking about the people.
No, this is an institution. They boost players they want to have drafted, and they take these white guys and they make them look better. And they have been doing it for years, Bill.
No, we're agreeing that they make guys work better than they are. What I'm explaining to you is that when you're a young journalist trying to make a name for yourself, you would break this story knowing it's going to put your name on the map. I don't think you understand how hard it is to make it as a sports journalist as a young person. There's no way you're going to sit on this if you're a 20-year-old
young person with the campus newspaper gets paid off like anybody else. Okay,
you don't get paid anything. There's no payoff. You wish you got paid.
Well, it happens.
I'd like to see proof of that, Zennie. I would like to see proof that someone has paid off anybody with the Daily Tar Heel. If you can produce anybody who said they've ever gotten a penny to cover up a story, I will say I'm wrong, and you're right. If you can find anybody who's taken a single penny.
Campus news to cover up. Boom. Okay. All right. Liberty University dissuaded students from reporting sexual assault violence to run unchecked. Allow it unchecked on their.
I said that's Liberty. Liberty, as you know, is a very religious university and a place that's very concerned with its public image, and most importantly, makes its students sign a morals pledge and all this other stuff. So
University a historic $4.5 million fine to U.S. Department of Education after fumbling its response to sexual assault. Lessons for Penn State covering controversial issues on campus.
Yeah, but those are none of those things that do with campus newspapers. You're all talking about things that the actual those are all things the actual athletic department did. At Baylor, at Penn State, at Liberty. Those are all things that the athletic department did to cover things up. None of those things touch on none of those things touch on anybody's campus newspaper.
To block Night News' public records requests.
Right.
The university would not answer questions.
Right.
U.S.
That's not the paper. Those are not journalists we're talking about. You're talking about the actual administration. Now, if you're talking about the administration, we're in full agreement. The administration squashes stories all the time. There we're agreeing.
News organizations squash stories all the time too. They do it all the time, Bill. I'm not buying that.
Here's what I'm telling you. If you're a 20-year-old,
I don't care. I've just finished representing
make a name for yourself.
I just finished representing a politician for whom the San Francisco Chronicle of all organizations bought an ad to boost a negative story about him that was 4 years old. And they're supposed to be the paper of record, and they're not, okay? And then the truth of the matter is that somebody bought it, but they used their own system to cover up who actually paid for it to put my client down, all right? So I am not believing any...
But that's a classic logical fallacy of taking... It's the old, I saw this one person do this one thing. They all do this thing. Like you're doing this classic logical fallacy of painting with this incredibly broad brush, Zennie.
I'm telling you that it happens a lot. I'm not playing broad brush with one or two. It happens all the time. But
It
you,
happens.
my point
It happens.
is,
It happens.
you want
It
to.
happens.
No, you want
It
to.
certainly happens. But you're now taking specific instances and now saying that's what happened here. But you don't know what happened here.
You're in a fantasy land. My question is, how come you're too willing to believe the okie doke?
I'm not willing to believe anything. There's no proof. When you have proof, I'll believe it. I'm not believing anything. There's nothing backing up anything that's been said here.
Yeah, there is. They cover it up all the time.
There's no proof.
Yeah,
That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, there is. There's always that person out there that knows it that gets silenced. There's always that news, like with Jameis Winston is a perfect example. Jamal Roberts slipped and told me by text message that he wanted it buried. That
sure. But freedom of information. Hold
on a second. They wanted it buried. I got the text. I'm gonna play it for you right now. It's short to you, okay? He wanted it buried. That they got married. Why? Because he knew doggone well that it was going to jeopardize the $950,000 they got from Florida State. So my next step is
so you have an obvious monetary incentive there. You're now alleging something where there's no proof of any sort of monetary incentive. You can see there's a disconnect here, right?
I do know there's no proof of monetary incentive. Of course there is.
Because you don't know that.
Yeah, I do.
How do you know it, Zennie? What proof is there?
Simple. You don't believe the institution, so you look for the impropriety and you find it. But when they folks like you out there who want to believe it from the start, you don't look. I do. Admit it.
I've looked like you looked. I've filed as many Freedom of Information Acts. In fact, I was the person that had all that stuff on Johnny Manziel.
How come you didn't have it on Jameis? How come you didn't look at Jameis? I did. I didn't believe what they said on Jameis from day one. I
believed the things that I knew because I had other people that confirmed other things about Jameis.
I don't trust anybody.
That was minor stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't trust anybody. You don't know why? Because there are too many people in a society that's too willing to put down somebody black and lift up somebody white to believe. So sometimes you got to strike out on your own. That's why.
Sure. And I've done that plenty of times as well, Zennie. What I'm pointing out to you is I don't simply make accusations if I can't back them up.
The American Psychiatric Association states that the reason why we have fake news is because you have people who want to be part of a group. And so they'll produce fake news like that in order to get it out there to be part of a group. Now that group could be some well-moneyed agents or well-moneyed alumni,
right?
Or well-moneyed people who come from operatives of the Trump campaign who know there's a lot of currency to be put out there by painting a certain athlete who's black a certain way, because they did that in 2016 by the numbers. Okay, and that's proven. So my point is,
I was right there when they did what they did to Colin Kaepernick. I'm aware of all this, Zennie.
I'm talking about Colin Kaepernick. I'm talking about any situation where there was a black-white issue. This was their focus. There is a document I have from a now defunct organization called Psi out of Israel, which specialized in putting out negative information on social media that was a racial bent in order to create the idea that we were divided during the 2016 presidential election. I then had on Rick Gates 4 times, the deputy campaign manager for the Trump organization, on this channel. All right. So my point is, I don't believe blank, and I investigate, especially when it looks like, hey, look, they can be putting down somebody black.
Right.
I don't trust them at all.
We're 100% agreeing. What I'm pointing out to you is that I also know that agents plant fake stories, and what you just cited could easily be that as well. That's all I'm pointing out. That lots of fake stories get planted this time. I've been covering the draft a long time, Zennie. A lot of this stuff.
But in this case, is because all of a sudden, when CAA became Drake May's agent of record, and they have a track record of doing this that goes all the way back to 2006, I thought, you know what? Let me look. I always look because I don't trust them. They have a way of seeding information like nobody's business, making they had Blaine Gabbert thinking he was the best thing since sliced bread. You should have seen the expression on his face on the red carpet in New York when he realized he wasn't number one. He was ready to bite somebody's head off. And mine
Well,
can,
I
like
trust,
me.
well, trust me, I was one of the people that was very, very aware of Blaine Gabbert's shortcomings, and said I wouldn't take him in the first round. So I'm very aware of Blaine Gabbert and what he
But
was and what
here's
he
the
wasn't.
thing, though. You might have been aware of it, but you didn't go the step of taking on USA Today's Jim Garrett, who had the nerve to write this puff piece about Blaine, calling him a pro style quarterback when he was running a spread,
No,
and then writing a piece in the same piece referring to Cam Newton as a spread offense guy, and then every quarterback that Jim compared him to was black. I saw Jim in the red carpet. I said, "Hey," and because I wrote my counter in the San Francisco Chronicle, and I designed it to come up where his did, and everybody saw it. And I said, "Hey Jim, you see that piece in the Chronicle?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "That was me." He gave me the dirtiest look. Then I started. I did this. Look at me. Look, I did this. Gotcha. Okay, because he knew he was wrong. It
well,
happens too much, man.
yeah, well, I mean, there were certainly things you could reasonably point out about both quarterbacks that could be concerning, but it was clear to anyone who knew anything about watching anything about football that Blaine Gabbert was an unfinished prospect in a bunch of different ways.
Well, yeah, it
And
was clear to anybody, but a lot of people were just reading their, publications and putting out on TV that this guy was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and
well,
and he was believing it.
well, like I said,
No?
there's a lot of, especially this time of year, there's a lot of stuff that gets put out there, and I don't believe most of it, quite frankly.
Um, and well, a spirited discussion, but especially you have to consider that the money involved in college athletics is greater now than it has ever been. And so with money comes, among other things, lies. Lies.
Well,
I mean, here,
even before, I mean, for years, this time of year has been known as lying season for decades. I just don't believe most of what I hear this time of year. Um, Around, you know, early to mid January, I'd basically stop listening to the noise.
interesting. Interesting. Well, this is a debate we could have for the rest of the weekend and into the night. Um, but I also say this, folks. Hey, uh, thing about it is, well, this gentleman, Dana Robertson, says Denzel Burke going back to school, right? Is he?
Well, let's double check if he
Yeah.
decided that.
Thanks, Dana.
Let's see. Where did Denzel Burke? Yep, I guess he did go back.
Yeah. Hey, he was on your list. You got to take him off.
Well, that's easy enough to do. Is he
Yeah.
on my list?
Yeah, he's on your list. That's why I got
Okay.
it. And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember I said I was taking a risk by taking him under the other two?
Yeah, that's definitely a risk. Oh, you're right. He is there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there he goes. Boom. Off.
Cool. Thanks, Dana. Thank you. Which means now I got to change my pick.
That would be wise, unless you're going to wait a year.
No, I'm not going. I'm going to do it right now, and I'm going to go back to.
See what happens next year. Maybe he'll come out next year. No, I'm sure he'll come out next year.
So guess. Not too hard to figure out who I picked. Chiefs.
Well, you still got Kool-Aid right there staring you in the face.
Yep, that's what I did.
And I think that's probably more likely if they don't go with one of the speed receivers like, well, Worthy if he's still there, or if not, maybe even I'm not as big a fan of Adonai Mitchell as some people are, but
Why is that?
His hands aren't the best. He is a big, fast kid, but he's never been the guy at any point. So There's games where Xavier Worthy takes over the game. A few times, even at Fresno, and then obviously after transferring to Texas. I cannot find a single game where Adonai Mitchell takes over the game, right? He makes one or two big plays, and then you usually don't see much of him for the rest of that game. Now, maybe that's just the way he was used in college, but generally speaking, guys who produce at his level end up being 2s or 3s at the NFL level as opposed to becoming number 1s in the NFL.
Well, all right. Well, that was fun, Bill.
It was.
Gotta do it.
Yeah, maybe in a week. But yes, we'll definitely do it again.
All right, folks. So I am going to, folks, thank you for joining us. Thank you. We had a record turnout. We haven't had this many people in a while. So
yeah, it's that time of year.
It is. Yes. We'll be back to do them more often. So he'll be back in a week, but I'll be doing some in between, even if it's just on my own, just to test out some possibilities. So
there you go. Test out possibilities. That's always fun.
Hey, so folks, stick around in the background. It's been 1 hour and 25 minutes and 47 seconds of pure fun. That ends this stream. Thank you, Dr. Bill.
Always a pleasure.